Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about your stories and how you're telling them wrong. Now let me start this out with my home buying story. 2 years ago we sold our houses in Washington and we moved down to the beautiful state of South Carolina, and this is our home buying story. We left on a beautiful Washington morning and flew a great flight straight into South Carolina, no turbulence, just dream flight. And then we landed and we were picked up by our friends, and they hosted us the entire time. It was so awesome. And then we found our dream home, and we're still living in it today. And then so it was perfect. We went and saw the home, and we knew we wanted it, and then we bought it, and then we flew back to Washington, and we tied up our affairs there, and we moved. It was great. That's not a story. Look how Hollywood does it, where they start out with a happy story of a family. Credit to anybody that can guess this story in the comments. Beautiful family, they're having a great time, they sing, their house kind of does some lively things, everybody seems great, and then as you go a little bit deeper in the story, you start seeing this turmoil, the problems, and then there's a struggle, and then they overcome it, but then more catastrophe, and then everything looks great. The sisters are singing a song. Everybody's having a great time, and the problem's solved. And then it all falls apart. And from the destruction comes new growth. Stories need both positive and negative. Think about when you're in person and one of your friends tells a story about something awesome you did, or something awesome they did. People typically undersell themselves, and they're like, yeah, that's a good example. I don't know. Let's say they play disc golf. I love disc golf. Like, oh yeah, I threw a great round. And you're like, no, that you don't do it credit. He started out and he threw this horrible shot into the forest and it was bad. But then, at that point I would have given up. But then it just all came together for him, and he just started clicking, and it was great. Storytelling is an art, and that's what I'm working on my channel right now. I figure, the first 100 videos on YouTube channel never watched. People might go back and watch them periodically. This one might be watched, might be watched. I don't know. But what I'm working on is my stories, and this is how I saw my home story, my home buying story, and how the agent should be telling the story is this. Hey, this really nice family from Washington reached out, and they wanted to, we were friends, and they talked about moving down for a while, but they didn't seem very serious, and but they were coming down. So we set it all up. I went through and I figured out exactly what they were looking for, and they showed up day one. We looked at 7 houses, and all 7 were beautiful homes. I mean, they were slam dunks, but it was little things. Oh, I don't want this. I don't like that. I don't like that. After day 1, I knew I had my work cut out for me, because what I thought they were looking for really wasn't what they were looking for, and I had to kind of go back to the drawing board. We kind of went into like a little mastermind group where we discussed, like, okay, what would you like? What did you not like? And from that, I kind of crafted a new list for the next day. We only had 3 days with these buyers, and I mean, like, the time was on. I knew I only had one chance. If they didn't buy on this one visit, it wasn't going to happen. And day 2, another slam dunk. We go see 6 properties, and once again, it was kind of like, this, that price. We don't want to move into a construction site, because a lot of the stuff had to be, they wanted to change the kitchen, they wanted to change the bathroom, they want to paint, and it was frustrating. I mean, the other, the home buyer was an agent in Washington. They should know exactly what they're looking for. And we were going through this process, and I knew I was close, and I knew I could help them, and I knew they would love the area, and I knew the neighborhoods they should be living in. And finally, they found the house, and they day 3 they find a house that they love, and they're all excited. They want to write it up the next morning. And so I draft up the paperwork. I have their pre-approval letter. We know we're going to offer it. And then, of course, 7 a.m., get a text message. We want to see one more house. We just one more house, and that's it. We really want this other house, but this other house we're just not sure. And we've all been there. So then the next morning we show up, and they walk in, and they're in love. The house is perfect. It has this grand entrance, and it's an open concept, and they're like, this is the house. We wrote it up, submitted the offer that day. And, to see the excitement in their eyes, after all of the houses we looked at and all of the struggles and trying to figure out exactly what they're looking for and adjusting our scope and adjusting our price points and adjusting everything, what an exciting time for them. They were disheartened on day 1. They were frustrated on day 2, and day 3 they were not. They found a house, and then finally it all came together. And that's the great part of working with me is now in the story there, I'm not a real estate agent, but the story had so much content that could be easily glazed over. It could just be like roses and sunshine the entire time. Like, it was perfect. But life is hardly ever perfect, and that's what makes life perfect. And being able to tell these stories and storytelling, I am definitely no expert, and I love to tell stories, and I tell stories all the time, and I'm always working on it because I've taken classes on stories. It's like where's the conflict? Where is the climax? Where's all the stuff? It's just like Hollywood, and Hollywood writes their movies based on more or less real life. I mean, they want an interesting story that grips the audience. You want to grab them and have them like, did they find their house? How did they find their house? I want to find a house. And it's this idea of transferring this emotion of the story. Like, we love our house. We live here now. We don't have any intention of moving. It took, technically 3.5 days. We wrote the offer up and left, I believe, that evening. I mean, we were right up against it. But whenever I hear the agent talking about, our home buying experience, I don't feel like she really appreciates the story it was, because, it was basically my wife's maybe second time in South Carolina. I had to sell her. She had lived in Washington State her entire life. I was stationed down here in Charleston when I was in the Navy. I loved the area, and I knew it was great. And but it's a big move, and there's a lot of emotions in play. And when you're talking to people via video, you have to be able to tell a compelling story. And I think, just like I'm doing, the best way to practice is to tell stories and record them and put them out there. You probably have sold hundreds of houses. Maybe you've sold 5 houses, but each of those stories is unique and beautiful in its own way. And learning to tell it in a way that can really capture the essence of the event is an art. And it goes a long way in creating video content, whether you're sending videos to potential clients, past clients, maybe you're creating ad content, maybe you're creating content for your website, maybe writing a blog, whatever you're doing, being able to pull out the little triggers in there of, it was good, it was bad, it was good, it was great, or it was good, it was bad, it was good. It didn't end well, because not all stories end well, and telling the stories that don't end well is equally as important. There's many home buying experiences for my family that didn't end well, and we didn't end up buying. And were those mistakes or regrets? Not really, but it was, at the time, it was disheartening because we didn't get there. But why didn't we get there? what can somebody else learn from your story? There's a wealth of knowledge in those stories that people would like to hear and be like, okay, I'm not alone. Or, oh, this person understands and was able to take the situation and turn it into a positive and teach. It's a teachable moment. I mean, the word, it's a teachable moment, and just the storytelling as whole. So this is what I think everybody should do is start telling more stories. Capture them on video, post them on social media. Every time you sell a house and you get permission from your client, you should write a story. Home buyer stories, the Frenches, the home buyer stories, the Smiths, and then write the story and share it with them. Be like, this is how I saw the story. You share with them before you, but tell the stories in a way that you bring out both the good and the bad, and appreciate both the good and the bad for what they are. And what it is it's life, and that's what makes a really powerful story. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm not sure if I can say like or subscribe anymore. It's kind of a gray area. Check in the description. I am giving away some storytelling prompts and stuff like that. Download that. It'll help you. And I also have a new Facebook group. It's called Virtual Homebuyer Seminar Success. And in that, we're talking about storytelling in the form of virtual homebuyer seminars, which once you start doing homebuyer seminars, which I think most agents have tried or are wanting to do, storytelling is really important, especially when you're trying to take it on the virtual space. And it's going to be a great group. Going to have a lot of strategies, tools, and the agents are all going to be sharing their experiences, and you might find some value in it. But all right, I'll talk to you next time.